Visit licensureexams.com and try our samples completely free of charge. Hello and welcome to our Licensure Exams podcast. I'm Stacy Frost.
And I'm Dr. Linton Hutchinson, and in today's episode of Theory to Therapy, we'll delve into contextual family therapy, breaking down its core concepts and techniques. We'll even talk you through a case study. So, as Stacy from Michigan would say, geez, Louise, it's time to skedaddle.
Me saying that is as likely as a pasty shop in the middle of a cornfield, Linton.
Haha, just made my point.
Well, anyway, contextual therapy is a fascinating approach that considers the broader context and relational ethics of family dynamics. And we're excited to tell you about the core concepts, techniques, and applications that you may need to know for your exam. So let's start by defining some key terms.
Sure thing. Here you go.
All right, number one, relational ethics. This is the foundational principle of contextual family therapy. It emphasizes the balance of fairness and justice within relationships. It's about acknowledging and valuing each family member's needs and contributions.
Number two, ledger. Well, Stacy, this is not about the blockchain ledger like your favorite Bitcoin or Ethereum or Theta, but a relational one. So how are your cryptocurrencies doing these days?
Oh, let me look at my little ticker over here. Things are for the moment in the green, which is a good sign.
Anyways, the ledger represents the balance of a give and take in relationships over time. When the ledger is imbalanced, it can lead to relational issues.
Number three, entitlement. In this context, it refers to what individuals feel they are owed in relationships based on their contributions and their sacrifices. It's their feeling that they have earned the right to receive care and respect.
Number four, destructive entitlement. When someone feels they are owed more than what is fair, it leads to negative behaviors and patterns.
Number five, contextual. This refers to considering the broader context of relationships, including historical and multi-generational influences. Number six, parentification. A role reversal in which a child takes on adult responsibilities and provides emotional support to parents, often at the expense of their own developmental needs. This frequently leads to an imbalance in the family's relational ledger.
Number seven, multi-directed partiality. This is your stance as you acknowledge the validity of each family member's perspective while challenging them to consider the view of others. It involves empathetic concern combined with holding members accountable.
And number eight, exoneration. The process of freeing family members from excessive guilt, blame, or retribution by recognizing the broader contextual factors that shaped their actions. This really opens the door to rebuilding trust.
These terms are critical for understanding how contextual family therapy operates. The ledger is a particularly useful concept for understanding the invisible dynamics of give and take that operate in all families over time. So, in a nutshell, I'd say contextual therapy is based on the idea that relational ethics and the balance of fairness between family members are at the heart of both problems and solutions. The approach zooms out to look at the intergenerational patterns, hidden loyalties, and the ledgers of merit that often exist unconsciously between people.
Right. So instead of just focusing on dysfunctional communication patterns or behavioral issues in isolation, contextual therapy tries to understand the deeper ethical fabric of the family system.
Exactly. And the goal is to help family members become more accountable, make decisions motivated by genuine care rather than obligation, and rebuild trust through actions that balance the scales of give and take. The process involves uncovering hidden relational debts and credits. You help family members understand their relational ledger and work towards fairness. It's about making the implicit explicit and dealing with any feelings of destructive entitlement.
Okay, so it's a little bit nebulous so far, but starting to make some sense.
Okay.
So, in the terms of actual therapy process, what does contextual therapy look like in practice? Break it down for me like a John Deere manual, Linton.
Okay. Well, contextual therapists are very active and engaged with the family. You use a lot of reframing of issues in terms of relational ethics. You point out legacies of entitlement and indebtedness that have been passed down through generations. The process involves uncovering hidden relational debts and credits. Therapists help family members understand their relational ledger and work towards fairness. It's all about making the implicit explicit and dealing with any feelings of destructive entitlement.
That's the same thing from earlier, isn't it?
It is. It's a recap.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, hopefully, it's really driving it home what contextual therapy is all about.
I think it is.
All right. Well, I was just thinking it's unique how this therapy brings historical and multi-generational context into the therapeutic conversation. It's like stitching together a family puzzle to make a complete quilt.
Definitely. And you know about making complete quilts, don't you, Stacy?
Yes, I do. They can be very frustrating at times, but very rewarding at the end.
It's about acknowledging past hurts and ensuring that they don't get carried around and into the future relationships. By addressing these issues, families can build stronger, healthier connections. Through multi-directed partiality, you give everyone a voice while also challenging them to think about the systemic consequences of their actions. There's an emphasis on personal agency and making deliberate choices to invest in the relationships.
I love how it's not just about the here and now, but also about understanding the why and how of relational dynamics. And as the family starts to rebalance the scales of fairness and let go of that destructive entitlement, those issues, you start to see a gradual rebuilding of trust and love between the family members.
That's the idea. Exoneration also comes into play as people are released from excess guilt and freed up to make new positive contributions to the family ledger. You guide members to replace selfish exploration with care and concern for the broader well-being of the family.
Well, this all sounds great in theory, Linton, but let's cut to the chase. What are the core assumptions that underlie the contextual approach?
Sure thing, Stacy. I think one of the most basic assumptions is that people are inherently relational beings and that our greatest need is for authentic, reliable connections with others. The supposition is that all family members have an innate desire for fairness and balance. It also assumes that relational imbalances, if not addressed, will lead to conflict and dysfunction. Contextual therapy sees the breakdown of trust and reciprocity in key relationships as the fundamental source of our suffering.
And this is really true for all family systems, right? Regardless of culture or socioeconomic background.
Absolutely. The desire for fairness and balance transcends cultural and socioeconomic boundaries. Another assumption is that unresolved issues from previous generations can affect current family dynamics. This is where the concept of multi-generational transmission comes into play. These family dynamics tend to be passed down through the generation, but they're often hidden in subtle ways. So the conflicts and dysfunctions we see in the present are often rooted in unresolved issues of unfairness from the past.
So it's like each generation inherits a certain ledger and these debts that shape relational expectations and behavior, often without anyone even realizing it. So
Right.
It's all happening sort of, behind the scenes, no one's aware.
Exactly. That's why contextual therapists place such an emphasis on exploring the family of origin dynamics and helping people become more aware of those invisible loyalties that may be driving their actions.
Right. So it's about recognizing and addressing both the individual and the collective histories within the family. And your job as a therapist is to help shine a light on those dynamics and empower family members to start making more caring, constructive contributions to the family ledger.
You got it. The assumption is that by rebalancing the scales of relational give and take and restoring an underlying sense of fairness, families can break free from old, damaging patterns and rebuild a solid foundation of trust and goodwill.
And always strive for balance in your own life, your work, and as you're studying for your exam. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, remember,
It's in there.